boys and girls, and welcome to Science Time with Mrs. DeCrose. If you remember, yesterday we started talking about weather, which is what's happening outside, and we talked about the people who tell us the weather are called meteorologists. Very good, and they predict what the weather is going to be when they look at different things in the atmosphere. Up in the sky, they look to see, is there cold fronts, warm fronts, is there high pressure, low pressure, and what they're seeing, okay? This week, starting today and all of next week, we're going to be talking about severe weather. Can you say that word? Severe weather. Mr. Crouse, what is severe weather? Severe weather is dangerous. Okay, sometimes we get weather that is a little dangerous. We do have great meteorologists who can predict these things, and then they let everybody know something is coming. There's warning systems. In Wheat Ridge, the first Wednesday of every month at about 10 or 11 a.m. in the springtime, there's a siren outside because they practice the emergency notification. So if there's a tornado in the area, there's going to be an alarm outside you hear. People's phones are going to be beeping. If the TV's on, flashes will appear that say severe weather. If you're ever watching regular TV during the springtime when there's like a thunderstorm, they interrupt the TV and put little banners on it when there is severe weather. So some of the severe weather we might see, and not all of these are possible in Colorado, okay? Tornadoes, blizzards, ice storms, hurricanes, thunderstorms, dust storms. So all of these are possible as severe weather. Do we get all of these in Colorado? No, we don't get all of these in Colorado. We're going to focus today on thunderstorms, okay? Now, a thunderstorm is pretty common in Colorado. Can you say thunderstorms? Thunderstorms, good job. Now, thunderstorms happen a lot, and they happen in the springtime when our weather is changing from cold winter to starting to get warmer in the springtime. You will see this lightning. The sky is getting dark. It's kind of hard to tell in this picture, but there's little white streaks coming down. Any guesses what you think those might be? I'm going to hold it up a little bit. That's rain. Okay, so you can see the rain. The sky is dark. It doesn't look like a normal cloud that we have outside today. It is different. And one other thing you see, besides seeing lightning, you hear thunder. Okay, something interesting. When you see lightning, you can figure out how far away the storm is. So when you hear lightning or see lightning, start counting. 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000. When you hear that thunder, it tells you how far away it is, okay? So if I got to 10, the magic number is 10, the storm would be a mile away. Sometimes you see lightning and hear that boom right away. That storm is right over you, okay? And if you're outside, you need to get inside because thunderstorms can produce rain, wind, hail, all of those things, okay? So if you're outside and there's a thunderstorm, you need to get inside too because lightning is also very dangerous. You should never swim during a thunderstorm. And if you've ever been at an outdoor pool and a storm comes in, the lifeguards kick you out because if the lightning hits the water, everything in that water could be electrocuted. It's part of the current. So you want to stay away and go inside during a thunderstorm. So I have a couple of things to show you that have to do with thunderstorms. We're going to start with what is a thunderstorm?
What is a thunderstorm? Hi guys, look, what a heavy rain. Oh, it's a thunderstorm. Have you seen the lightning? Let's find out what a thunderstorm is and why it happens. First, water evaporates from the surface of the earth. Warm air, saturated with water vapor, rises up. As this happens, the air cools, because the higher we get above the ground, the colder it becomes. This is noticeable when you look at mountains. Their peaks are snow-covered, while the areas at the foot of the mountain are still warm. At the higher altitude, the water vapor turns into a fog, that is, small droplets of water. Now, clouds of different shapes are formed from the fog. But in order to get rain with a thunderstorm, the clouds need to be very large. Such clouds are called cumulus. At the top of the cloud, it is so cold that the water there begins to freeze and ice crystals are formed. Then these crystals begin to fall and become the centers of formation of large drops of water, which move down. Look at the cloud. Its top settles down and becomes flat, and the cloud itself now resembles a mushroom or an anvil. This means that large drops are already flying down, and rain will soon pour out of the cloud. For a thunderstorm to appear, there should be a separation of the electric charge. Large and heavy cloud particles usually have a negative charge. Let's mark this with the minus sign. And lighter particles have a positive charge. It is usually marked with the plus sign. Large and heavy cloud particles fall faster, and the charge in the cloud separates, creating an electric voltage. This is what causes lightning. But what is lightning? This is an electrical discharge, more precisely, an electric spark of enormous size. We can create small electric sparks in the dark if we rub a balloon against hair or clothes, woolen or synthetic ones. Look, there are the sparks. Lightning is the same electric spark, only many times bigger. So what is the thunder we hear during a thunderstorm? Remember when we created sparks with friction, we heard clicks? And just like lightning is many times greater than our sparks, the sound it produces is louder than our clicks. This is called thunder. Did you notice that during a thunderstorm, we always see lightning first, and only after that we hear thunder? This is because the light of the lightning reaches us almost instantly, since the speed of light is very fast. Thunder is a sound, and the speed of sound is much slower, so the thunder reaches us with a delay. It's very important to know about safety during a thunderstorm. Usually, lightning strikes high objects. Therefore, during a thunderstorm, you shouldn't hide from the rain under a tree. During a thunderstorm, it is dangerous to be in the water or even near any body of water, as water conducts an electric current. But to watch a thunderstorm from the window of your house is safe and interesting.
All right. All right, boys and girls. So I wanted to show you this book real quick. I'm just going to go to the spot about thunderstorms. So it says one way a thunderstorm forms is you have that red line we talked about yesterday, and that's the warm air, and it rises up. Moving off of the west by the mountains is a cold front, and when the warm and the cold meet, it rises up into the clouds. Okay, because the heat is absorbed from the ground, because we talked about how the sun warms the earth. So as the sun is out, it starts to rise when cold air comes in. And then we have high altitudes living here in Colorado. So we see a lot of severe weather and thunderstorms here in Colorado. So you can see some of the clouds, and over here with my mouse, you can see that is rain. Okay, that's the rain coming down to the earth from the clouds. Here is a lightning bolt, and you can see it was hitting a tower on a building. A lot of tall buildings do have lightning rods, you can see over here, so that the building doesn't get hurt by it, but it actually hits the pole the lightning rod, so it doesn't hurt anyone inside the building. Okay. Some wildfires in the spring and summer in Colorado, we have a lot of wildfires, and sometimes it's caused by lightning because lightning hits the ground. And if there is old trees and grass, you could get a wildfire. All right. Here is a quick video from Mystery Doug.
Hi, it's Doug. Have you ever experienced one of these? Not just rain, but wind, lightning, thunder. It's a thunderstorm. These are exciting, maybe even a little scary, right? Now imagine flying on an airplane during a thunderstorm, with lightning out the window, the plane is shaking. Now, luckily, this rarely happens, and that's because pilots do everything they can to avoid thunderstorms. They've got a good lookout from up there. They can spot bad weather up ahead, so if a storm cloud is in the way, it's usually possible to fly around it, or sometimes even climb higher and fly over it. Now, that is precisely what this guy tried to do on July 26, 1959. His name was Lieutenant Colonel William Rankin. And what I'm about to tell you is a completely true story. William Rankin was flying from Massachusetts to South Carolina, USA. He'd been told to expect thunderstorms, but this was a jet fighter plane capable of flying higher than any ordinary plane. So he figured that if he did run into a bad thunderstorm, no problem, he could just fly over it. Just a few minutes before he was about to reach his destination, he saw this huge, puffy cloud in front of him. He'd seen clouds like this many times before. Now, to someone who didn't know better, you might even think the cloud looked inviting and friendly. But William Rankin knew that its looks are deceiving. This was no friendly cloud. It was a very certain type, and he knew this was a kind of storm cloud that he should avoid at all costs. It was enormous, extending nearly 9 miles up into the sky. This cloud was taller than the tallest mountain on Earth. Still, he figured he could fly over it, which should have been fine, unless something really terrible happened, like his engine stalled and the plane stopped flying or something. And that's exactly what happened. Well, directly over the top of this cloud, he heard a loud bump and a rumble from the engine. The engine had stopped. A warning light was flashing. Okay, stay calm, he thought. He'd practiced for this kind of problem. All he had to do was pull a lever and then the backup engine would come on. But as he pulled it, crack, the lever broke off in his hand. There was no backup power. He was going to have to eject or parachute out of his plane and let the plane crash. He jumped from the plane, falling out of the sky, but as if things couldn't get any worse, he looked down and saw that he was still right over the top of the cloud. William Rankin was about to become the first human being ever to fall through a storm cloud with nothing to protect him. As he entered the cloud, his skin turned red and frostbitten from the severe cold. High above the earth, temperatures are incredibly cold, minus 58 degrees. That's as cold as winter in Antarctica. His parachute opened up, which gave him a moment of relief, but only a moment. Just then, a huge bolt of lightning flashed behind his parachute. Lightning was now striking all around him. The thunder was so loud it made his entire body rumble. 10 minutes had now gone by. During a normal skydive, by now, he should have parachuted safely to the ground. But he was still up in the cloud. And worse, now he was being pelted by huge drops of frozen rain, what's called hail. Some of it was the size of golf balls. Each piece of hail was hitting him like it was like being punched. He was getting bruised badly. He couldn't wait to be out of this cloud. But just as soon as he'd fallen a little bit farther, a strong upwards breezing wind would push him back up into the cloud, and hail would beat him up even more. He was getting beaten up by a cloud. Finally, after what seemed to him like forever, he reached the bottom of the cloud and fell safely to the ground, where he landed in a forest. He was alive. It felt like a miracle. He looked at his watch. It read 6:40 p.m. Not only had he just become the first person to go directly through a storm cloud, but because of the violent upward blowing winds, he'd been stuck inside the storm cloud for 40 minutes. Looking back up at the sky, this is what William Rankin would have seen. He'd fallen through a type of storm cloud called a cumulonimbus cloud. They're puffy and enormously tall. They even look kind of friendly and fun. But even though William Rankin's experience of falling through a cumulonimbus cloud was incredibly rare, these clouds themselves are actually not that rare. In fact, they're one of the two most common kinds of storm clouds, and chances are that they sometimes form near where you live. What about you? What's the worst storm you ever experienced? Have you ever experienced a thunderstorm coming toward you before it arrives? What clues would you look for to know if a storm was coming your way?
All right, boys and girls. So that was an interesting video. One of the things that made me think about is a couple of years ago, I think it was 3, maybe 4 years ago, and it was in May. We had a really bad thunderstorm go through Wheat Ridge, and we had huge hail. Okay, so thunderstorms produce rain and they can also produce hail. Hail is those frozen ice, okay, and it can range from marble size, penny size, golf ball size, and then a softball size. Now, this storm that happened in Wheat Ridge a few years ago was hitting windshields in cars, like the entire windshield. You might have remembered this. I bet your parents do, but huge amounts of hail came through Wheat Ridge. Lots of people had to get new cars, had to get cars fixed. Dents were everywhere. Even at our school, in the art room, in Miss Burke's room, there's lights in the sky. I know you haven't been in her classroom, but there's skylights. Hail went through and broke into the art room. So hail comes with some severe thunderstorms. Not all, but some thunderstorms do have hail. Another thing I wanted to talk with you about real quick is about floods. Now, a flood happens with lots of rain, okay? And during a thunderstorm and rain, you could have lots of rain. This would cause a flood. So if you look at this picture, the grass, the tree, it's covered in water because there's been so much water, the earth can't take it back into lakes and rivers, and it rises, which could be a very dangerous situation. So I'm going to just show you a quick thing about floods. It's just a quick book about floods. So these people are actually in a boat. So if you see, this is a area where you drive. These are street signs. This is a road, and there's so much water, it started to flood. People can use sandbags to try and block water from coming in. And we can get floods here. And it's just when it rains continuously over and over and over again. After hurricanes, you might see flooding, which we'll talk about hurricanes on a different day. But hurricanes could cause flooding. And you can see these cars. They didn't drive into a lake, they were sitting parked, and water has come. Okay, so it's not a safe thing to be in. You can see they could do lots of damage to roads. Too much water on the pavement can cause the pavement to collapse. So way too much water. So if you saw, I live near a pond. And so when it rains, the pond starts filling more and more with water. But if it gets too full, it starts to overflow. Just like if you turned your bathtub on and you plugged it and water went up, there's no stopping it. If you don't turn that water off, it's going to go over the edge and into your bathroom floor. And that's what happens with a flood. We have lots of things put in place on our earth to help with rain. But once that is too much, it goes over and causes a flood of water. And then it takes time to get the flood waters to go down. All right. What we're going to do real fast today is look at this book, and we're going to use this book all week. It says Types of Severe Weather. So, pencil out. The first thing I do is always the same. I pick up my pencil and I write my name. All right. So, we're going to go to the page about thunderstorms. So, not that one. All right. Right here. And this is the page that I can see lightning bolts. And it says thunderstorms can be dangerous. So read that with me. Thunderstorms can be dangerous. Okay, it's not something you want to play in outside. If it is raining outside and you don't see lightning or hear thunder, play in the rain. You're fine. But the minute you hear thunder and you see lightning, it is now dangerous. Okay. Just rain by itself is okay, but a thunderstorm is when it's dangerous and you can see the lightning. You might want to take a yellow crayon, colored pencil marker, and you can color the lightning bolt yellow. All right. And we're going to go to the very, very last page. And it says, too much rain can cause a flood. So let's read it. Too much rain can cause a flood. Okay, and that could be bad when your house could have water coming in the doors and then everything inside could get wet. Rain is very important, but we can't have too much at one time. Over a long period of time, it's okay, but all at once makes it hard. Tomorrow, boys and girls, we're going to learn about my favorite severe weather, tornadoes. I'll see you tomorrow.